January 14th, 2025 at 6 o'clock p.m. at 406 Ivinson Avenue, Council Chambers, and via Zoom meeting ID 858-0055 or 0550-0970, passcode 936148 for the following purpose. Special meeting, number 1, call to order. Number 2, roll call. Number 3, public comment on non-agenda related items. Number 4, vouchers, December 2024. And number 5, adjourn the special meeting and convene the work session. The work session tonight has number 1, Wyotech update. Number 2, Laramie County Community College, Albany County or Albany campus update. And number 3, city council updates and council comments. Number 4, agenda review.
Thank you, City Clerk. Can you please call the roll?
Bowling.
Here.
Freed.
Here.
Lockhart.
Here.
Newman.
Here.
O'Doherty.
Here.
Shumway.
Here.
Vihill. Here. Richardson.
Here.
And Cumby.
Here.
We have 9 present and 0 absent, Mayor.
Thank you. Next, are there any public comments on non-agenda items from the group here? I see none. Then we will move on to the next item, which is the vouchers for December 24, 2024. And Director Wade, would you be introducing that, please?
Vice Mayor Cumby, good evening, and members of the council. I would just like to express my gratitude for moving this item to a special meeting tonight to allow our new Finance Committee to review expenditures. They did complete their review of their expenditures just before this meeting and signed off on disbursements. So in my opinion, you are safe to approve this item. Happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Are there any questions? Are there any questions or comments from the public? Seeing none, I return to council. Any comments?
Yeah, we do need a motion.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now, do I have a motion to accept? Or do I have a motion?
I move. I'll second.
Chair.
All right.
Or Mayor, sorry. If we could have, if you want, I can read what's written here, but somehow we need to get the motion into the minutes. So it needs to be read.
So can you read the motion?
Apologies all. I move that the following resolution be adopted, that all vouchers approved by the Finance Committee be allowed, warrants drawn on proper city funds and payment thereof, and the vouchers be placed on file in the Treasurer's office subject to public inspection, and that council authorize payment for the month-end payroll, light and gas charges, telephone charges, employee travel, other employee reimbursements, pay advances, refunds for city services, recording fees, postage, lease purchase and bond payments, self-funded employee health insurance claims, miscellaneous insurance claims, council-approved bid items, outside attorney fees, other consulting fees before normal city council approval on the first Tuesday of January. These expenditures are to be paid subject to audit by the City of Laramie Finance Department.
Now I'll second it.
We have a motion from Councilor Vihill and a second from the Vice Mayor. Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, if you can call the roll, please.
Bowling.
Yes.
Freed.
Yes.
Lockhart.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
O'Doherty.
Yes.
Shumway.
Yes.
Vihill.
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes.
Shumway. Oh, sorry.
I did.
I'm sorry. Just wanted to double check. No. Cumby.
Yes.
That's 9 yeses and 0 noes, Your Honor.
I think it was 10.
Yes.
Thank you, City Clerk. Do I have a motion to adjourn the special meeting and convene the work session?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by the Vice Mayor, seconded by Councilor Newman. Voice vote?
Yes.
Oh, roll call. Roll call vote.
You can do a voice vote.
Voice, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That motion passes. Next, we move on to our work session. And beginning, I'd like to ask, are there any comments from the public? If so, move forward. Seeing none, we'll move on to our work session. First up is Kyle Morris with President of Wyotech. Welcome, President Morris.
Yes, thank you for having me. Appreciate the opportunity. I think I got a clicker here. So I was asked to kind of give the state of the Wyotech address, and very happy to do that. So having not done this before, I don't think Wyotech's been in front of you guys for a while. I'm not going to assume too much past knowledge and do a quick history of Wyotech and quick recent history of Wyotech, and then provide plenty of opportunity for you guys to answer any questions that you may have. So let's see if we can figure out the clicker.
Just do twice the first time, right?
Okay, here we go. So I'm going to zoom through. There's a lot of words on these first few slides, and I'm going to zoom through. But Wyotech was founded in 1966 here in Laramie, Wyoming, and was a campus of, I think, 20-something students when it first started, and grew to a campus that was 300, 400, 500 students. It kind of stabilized there. In the late 90s, mid-late 90s, Jim Mathis was the president of Wyotech, and that's when it saw kind of its first big growth. And Wyotech grew from the campus in Laramie, Wyoming of 500 students to over 2,000 students in the early 2000s in Wyotech. So if you guys remember that we're in town here, we had day and night classes. I think we had something like 2,300 students at the time. And then Wyotech branched out across the country. So there was a campus in Blairsville, Pennsylvania, Daytona, Florida, Sacramento, California, Fremont, a couple in the Northeast. And so at one point, I think there were 8 Wyotech campuses and somewhere in the neighborhood of 5,000 Wyotech students. During that time, Wyotech was owned by Corinthian colleges, and at a certain point, Corinthian colleges got into some hot water with the U.S. Department of Education over other campuses that weren't Wyotech, and basically lost all of their funding. And so at that point, Corinthian colleges owned over 100 campuses, the Wyotechs, being a small portion, and a different company called Zenith Education Group bought Wyotech and operated the 3 of the campuses, so just the Blairsville, the Daytona, and the Laramie campus for 3 years. And they were very unsuccessful doing that. This was kind of a branch out operation. And so in 2017, I believe is the timeline, Zenith Education made the decision that they were going to teach out all of the Wyotech campuses. And I'm sure that many of you guys in this room remember that. And that was the time where the Laramie campus, it was understood that basically the students that were at Wyotech, which was about 600 students at the time, would go to the end of their education, then the doors would be closed, locked, everybody walks away, and the campus does not exist. And that was Zenith Education Group's intent at the time. So fortunately for us at Wyotech, we had the support of the city council, we had the support even of Laramie County Community College, the University of Wyoming, the state, a lot of local support to say, okay, what can we do here to try to save this? And we at Wyotech can't stress enough the importance of that local support, because again, when Zenith made that decision, they had no intention of even trying to find a buyer. This was just kind of a side project for them. They were going to pay out the leases on the dorms, pay out the leases on the training facilities, just walk away and wipe their hands. And so putting that coalition together of local support, state support, industry support made all the difference in the world for Zenith to actually open the door and say, okay, maybe we will entertain continuing this campus. And so of all of those Corinthian Colleges campuses and all of those Zenith Education Group campuses, this campus here in Laramie, Wyoming was the only one that continued on operations, and again, that's because of the local support. So what ended up happening, if you guys don't recall that portion of the story, was the state senators got a hold of Jim Mathis, who again was the operator of WyoTech during its period of biggest growth, and he was kind of retired at his ranch hanging out, and they said, hey, are you bored? Do you want to come do something? And so they kind of put a pitch in front of him that said, here's some money that the state has allocated. Can you find a group that would be willing to own and operate WyoTech? And that money, again, made all the difference for Jim to come back and own and operate WyoTech. And so he came back in the summer of 2018, so crazy to think, but it's been 6.5 years ago now since all of this happened. He came back and took 12 students, the 12 last remaining students from Zenith Education Group's operation, and bridged the gap from them to his ownership starting in July of 2018. 12 students and 12 employees. And so that's kind of the origin story of where we're at today, the current state of WyoTech. And I'll kind of jump off from there to kind of build it back. But one of the things that I want to call attention to, that again, I think many of you have been out to WyoTech, or at least several of you have been out to WyoTech. We've had conversations, seen tours, all of that good stuff. But a super important thing that we want to call attention to is just the longevity of some of the employees that have been at WyoTech. And when you see the leadership team up there, and you've got numbers approaching 50 and several in the 30s and many in the 20s, and myself, I've been there for 21 years at WyoTech. It's something that we believe in, and I think the local support that we got here is an illustration of that. The industry support that we've got is an illustration of that. But to see continually, you guys may or may not know, but we're on a quarterly schedule, and so we're registering students every 3 months. We're graduating students every 3 months, and we see that energy from students and families all the time. Excuse me, of like this is what I want to do with my life, and then we get to see industry kind of plug that in, and I don't think you see that kind of longevity and tenure unless you see people who really believe in what they do, and so again, that's one of the things that brought Jim back. That's one of the things that's kept me here, and that's one of the things that really has kept our leadership team throughout this period of growth as we've come back. So we currently have about 320,000 square feet of training facilities out there. We built a 90,000 square foot addition that opened in fall of, I always forget now because it goes so quick, 21 or 22. So that building has been fully operational. That includes space for 320 additional automotive students. We had some additional classroom space that we added. So everything is contained on the facilities in West Laramie, right there off of Venture Drive, in those 320,000 square feet. And I mentioned this briefly, but again, worth mentioning because I don't want to make any assumptions, but our program is 9 months long, and our students go to class 8 hours a day, and the classes are broken into 6-week segments and 3-month quarters. So each student is taking 3-month quarters that consist of 3 separate classes that they're attending. You can see some of the certifications that we offer. And then I want to make a special point here too, just to talk about some of the regulatory and compliance. So Wyotech is a for-profit operation, and so sometimes when we in the city or the community or the state talk about Wyotech, and education, it kind of gets lumped in with the University of Wyoming and LCCC and Wyotech, and in a lot of ways that's accurate, but in one key area it's not, and again, we're a for-profit operation, so we're tax-paying operation, and we are regulated and accredited different than the publics are, and so you'll see our accrediting body there is the ACCSC, the Accrediting Commission of Career Schools and Colleges. And we just went through our reaccreditation process with them. As you see there, we're waiting on our kind of final approval with them, but that's mostly a formality at this point. It's a 5-year renewal. But one of the things that some people don't realize about, again, Wyotech and for-profit and trades educations is that we are held to a standard by the ACCSC as well as the Department of Education for graduation rates and placement rates and several other factors, and we'll look at some of these, but our students have to graduate at least a 70% rate and have to be placed in the industry at least a 70% rate. And we have to provide documentation of that. So if somebody graduates from our program and they go out and get a job, we have to call and verify with that student, we have to call and verify with that employer, and then provide record that that's happening on a continual basis. And so those are not standards that we've really ever had trouble meeting or would anticipate having trouble meeting. We set our standards much higher, but important to know that as a for-profit school, we would not receive Title IV funding unless at least 70% of our students are graduating and 70% are placed in the field. So, and then, the program participation agreement, again, is with the U.S. Department of Education, which is another layer of regulatory and compliance that we as a for-profit have to go through. So. Oftentimes, you'll kind of get the question of, what's different about Wyotech and why Wyotech? I think in one of the previous slides I may have dove over fairly quickly, our student population is made up primarily of out-of-state students, and so we have less than 10% of our students that come from Wyoming at this point. In a given year, typically we've got all 50 states represented at one point or another, and typically we have 20 to 30 students from Hawaii at any given time because we have a really good admissions rep, and people are like, what are they doing here? But they love it. They love it. And that those families are the most fun too at graduations and registrations. They have all the energy. They're so excited to be there. But so students coming from all over, and again, the question is, well, why are they coming to cold, windy, snowy, minus 14-degree Laramie, Wyoming from Hawaii? And these are some of the things that are why. One of the biggest things that we hear from our industry, and we'll talk about the career fairs and those kinds of things, but we hold a career fair every 3 months, and we have over 100 employers at each of those career fairs. They're booked out within a day or two, and those employers are paying their way to come to Laramie, Wyoming to hire our students. And one of the biggest things that we hear is again the standards that we set, the professionalism standards, and the commitment level that our students have. And so again, if you can imagine, we ask our students to, they have to be clean shaven every single day that they come to class. Their hair has to be up off their collar every day when they come to class. They have to be in uniform every day when they come to class. Their jeans can't be holey. We ask them to, act professionally, not use poor language, any of those kinds of things. And so again, you're saying, well, why would somebody come sign up from Hawaii and have to shave their beard and, do all of those things? And it's because it's because the standard is what's important, and our students get that, and our employers get that. And they see that. And so what unifies all of these people is they have a passion to work for to work with their hands and to work in the trades. And they have a commitment level that says, this is the best place that I can do that. And we have an industry base that backs that up and says, hey, we come to Laramie, Wyoming from all across the country, because if a student signs up from Hawaii and agrees to shave their beard for 9 months and do all of these professionalism code regulations, that student is going to show up to work for me every day, for sure, and they're going to follow whatever silly rules I have in my shop. And most of the employers that we work with could care less if a student has a beard once they go work for them, but they still want them to shave when they're here with us, because that means they're committed to something, and that standard's important to them. And so that's a big part of it. And then another big part too is Laramie's great. We said it's cold and windy and snowy and -14, but Laramie's awesome. Laramie has mountains everywhere. Laramie has the university. It has these bigger events that you don't get. It's a safe town. Moms and dads love to send their student to Laramie, Wyoming for a go-away to college experience, because it's got things to do and it's safe, and you're mixing in that condensed program with that go-away to college experience. And so that's really a tough combination to be, and a very unique one that WyoTech offers. In a community college, you get some of those things, and it's a great experience for a lot of people, but you don't get the condensed nature of the program sometimes. Sometimes the graduation rates aren't there. In some of these other trades educations, the kind of for-profits, it's more of a commuter. You go to school for half the day. They don't care what you do with the rest of your day. But here at WyoTech, we've got an entire department that houses students, provides activities for students, gets them engaged, in City League basketball and all these other things that are going on, and really tries to provide that go-away to college experience. I did want to touch too on, again, I think I missed the numbers. Sorry, I'm searching for our, okay. Yeah, so let me hit this first, and then I'll come back to what we were looking at. As we think back, to what we talked about in July of 2018, you see the chart represents the growth that we've had. So you see those initial 12 students in July of 2018. At the end of 2019, we had 223 students. At the end of 2020, we had 473 students. At the end of 21, we had 669 students. 22, 829, 23, 1,011. And at the end of this last year, we had over 1,100 students. Our current capacity is basically 1,200 students, and that's if every single student's taking the right program that mix and match perfectly to fill, literally 1,200 seats. So 1,100, 1,150 really is capacity for us. And so right now, we've gone from 12 students in 200-something thousand square feet to 1,150 students in 320,000 square feet in 6 years. And so I jumped ahead to that because we know that increases our footprint in the community too. And that's something that we really are aware of and do a lot of things proactively to try to educate our students and work with students on that footprint too. I put this up here. I'm not going to read through it obviously, but we have an actual good neighbor policy outlined in our housing handbook, and that our instructors and the rest of the campus enforce. And so, if a student's a disaster out there in the community doing things that they shouldn't be, that can come back to impact their education, and we do hold students accountable for those. So on the proactive portion of that, Every 3 months when we do registration, we also have what's called a community orientation. And so we invite in the police department, the sheriff's department, BLM, prevention organizations. There's some faith organizations, businesses, banks, really anybody that wants to participate in that, and basically welcome our students in and also give, some friendly advice and tips for success on how to have a good time in Laramie and be a great community member. And so we do that every 3 months, and would welcome participation from anybody. So if you know organizations that should or could or would want to be involved in that, we'd love to talk to them. We do also strongly implement a community service volunteer program for our students. And over the years, we've had multiple versions of this, and I often heard so my background when I started at Wyotech was in student services. I actually came to Wyotech to run the intramural sports league 21 years ago, and I oversaw a lot of the volunteerism. And one of those years we had over 20,000 hours of volunteerism in the community, and what we often heard was, I know your students have to volunteer or they're required to do community service, and that's never been the case. Our students can volunteer and receive some extra credit on their grade, and so we do incorporate it into the academics, but on a voluntary basis. And so if you just want to have some extra points in your pocket, or you got a bad score on your test or whatever, we have those volunteer opportunities that are available. But we strongly promote those, and really encourage our students to participate in the community and get out and meet the good folks of Laramie and make those connections. And then we also, one of our things that we've instituted in the last couple of years is a Good Samaritan program. And so at graduation we recognize outstanding students and perfect attendance and grades and all of these things, but we also recognize Good Samaritans. And so we have kind of a drop box where people can call out people for just doing good things, and you'd be surprised at how often we get those. And we've had several from the community. One was an older gentleman that lived a little ways out of town and had a bunch of loads of trash, and we had some students that were driving by and basically saw him doing that and stopped and said, hey, do you need some help? And they ended up taking 7 truckloads of trash to the dump for this guy and help him get access to his property. And so we didn't know anything about this. He called up the campus just out of the blue and said, this was amazing, thank you so much, I just want to thank you and the students. And so perfect example of again, that's what we are encouraging with the students as much as we are the technical skills. So this is hard to read, but if you've got the paper, this is basically our graduation rates and our placement rates, and that's the official report that we have to publish for our accreditors and the regulators. But that's just showing you those those programs. Many are far above 80% graduation rates and also placement rates. So we talked about this. The only thing I'll touch on this before we dive into the last part, which is this kind of some of the things that we see as potential growth for Wyotech, is those projection numbers. So I just said we're at a 1,200 capacity, and so you're looking at 2025 and saying how you're going to get to 1,278 when you only have 1,200 seats on campus. And we might not, but we have some projects in the works, and we'll look at those. The thing that I want to call attention to here is those numbers are, if we had space, if I had shops available tomorrow to put students in and housing to put students in, we could blow past those numbers for 25 and 26. The demand is there. We are, as you see on that third bullet point, we started a welding program in April, and that program is now sold out until April of 2026. So we can't enroll another student in that program until April of 2026. Demand is strong, industry demand is strong. Our admissions team is going to be at a point where we're closing classes in July and October and basically out of seats. So we want to grow, but we want to grow the right ways too. So I guess I'll go ahead and take a pause there before we talk about some of these growth projects and see if there are any questions that people have.
Counselor Lockhart.
Thanks for coming, Kyle. I appreciate it.
Yeah, good to see
So
you.
it's a 9-month program. Do I understand if they want to take on more classes and go and get more certifications, they can? They're not just limited to that?
Yeah, that's correct.
9-month program.
That's correct. So students, the welding program is 6 months, which I didn't mention before. The other programs are all 9 months. It's divided up into a core area of study, which would be automotive, collision, or diesel. And then there are 6 specialty courses that they can take. So these are more kind of like the passion courses and, the fun ones. So custom fabrication, there's street rod, there's applied service management where you can get an associate's degree, there's trim and upholstery, there's high performance powertrains, kind of the passion programs. And so a student will sign up for a combination of a core program and a specialty. And then, yeah, if we have many students that will choose to add a second specialty or a third, or whatever, so they can continue on in those 3-month segments. So, correct.
Counselor Newman.
Do you have a follow-up? I do. Is that okay?
Counselor Lockhart.
Sorry, full questions. So as far as getting educators, trainers, how's that go? I mean, do you have a long list of applicants that want to work here also?
Yeah, so it's not easy to hire that many instructors that quickly, but we've done a really good job of staying on that leading edge and right on that leading edge. We do have a pretty long list of applicants, but a couple of challenges with that. One is that not many of them are from Laramie because, again, just the pipeline here is smaller to bring in that specialized of a position. And then when our applicants are interested here, it's a matter of finding them the right place to live and, relocating somebody from out of state. And we know that housing has been a challenge in this community. So we actually, we rent out 10 modulars, and we use that for temporary instructor housing. And that's been a really successful way for us to get somebody here for 6 months, provide them some breathing room, try to find a place, make sure that that's all working. Without that, there would be many applicants that we had lost. So it's taken kind of that proactive effort to make sure that we can temporarily house some of those instructors. But we do have a lot of people that, people want to come to Laramie and get out of other situations, and we have a lot of alumni that want to come back and work for us, technicians who have been in the field for a long time and just want to give back to the younger generation. And so it's not easy to hire that many instructors, but we've stayed right on that leading edge of where we need to be, and we've gotten there. But housing is one of our struggles in that area.
Counselor Newman.
So yeah, I was one that moved back home. So
Yeah,
Counselor
case in
Walker,
point.
yeah. Which is a funny big circle because when I was a student here, Kyle was kind of my boss then too. So now he's my boss again, which
Can't get
is
away from
fantastic. I just wanted to hit on a couple things. I don't have questions. The community service, the extra credit's capped, so it's not like they can continue to up their grade if they have a D or we don't have Ds, if they have an F or a C, right? So it is capped. However, you'll see most of our students who have that capped, they're still out in our community, which is my other plug because Holly will scream at me if I don't do this. I'm on the Good Samaritan board. So if you guys ever see we have a board that meets, so it's not like one person's picking who's going to give this Good Samaritan award. So if you guys ever see a WyoTech student out doing something, please call, whether it's good or bad. I prefer the good because I don't like taking points or stuff away if they beat or if they're like abusing the good neighbor policy. But so if you ever see anybody out there doing something, as long as they're not getting paid for it, we can look it over and see if we can give them they get a cool pin. We're going to go to a different style pin too, and then recognition at graduation. So if you guys ever see that, or if you know other people who work with WyoTech in the community. And then my last plug is the community orientation. That's where some of our boards and commissions should be going as well, because I know they need volunteers for some of their things and some of their activities. And so it would be a good way for those boards and commissions to meet our incoming students and help them kind of show them the ropes of what Laramie does and what's available to Laramie. So that's all I got. I didn't have any comments or questions.
Vice Mayor.
Thank you. Thanks so much for the presentation. This is great.
Sure.
Additional information. I just have a couple of questions that are probably way too in the weeds than I need to be, but I'm curious.
No worries.
The Title IV funding, how much of the, because that's federal funding, correct?
That is
How
federal
much
funding.
of that is that like in compared to the rest of your budget? Do you get a substantial?
Yeah.
That looked like
yeah.
y'all.
So actually, and that's, speaking of in the weeds, I didn't want to get too much in the weeds, but that's one of the regulatory and compliance things that we're held to. So the federal government has what's called a 90-10 regulation, and that applies directly to Title IV funding. And what that means is that an institution can't receive more than 90% of their revenue through Title IV funds. And Title IV funds is student loans, just to make sure that I'm not speaking foreign languages to anybody, the Pell direct loans that you get from the federal government. So again, that 90-10 regulation exists in the world to prevent organizations from enrolling students that have no skin in the game whatsoever and just, hey, student loans will pay for this and call it good. So long preface to say that our 90-10 is much closer to 60-40. So we're getting about 60% from Title IV and 40% from cash. And to get further in the weeds, if you want to get there, that is including a regulatory change that just happened this last year, which took GI Bill funds from the 10 side to the 90 side. Okay. So prior to this year, if a veteran student wanted to use those funds that they had earned, that was considered to be more on the cash side, and now it's considered to be on the Title IV side. And so prior to that, we were closer to 55-45 or something like that. So.
Got one other question. It's okay.
Vice Mayor.
Thank you. The other question I saw on one of the charts, there are really high rates of placement, except in diesel something technology. And I'm just curious, do you all look at those and then kind of
I need to get
bring
my eyes
on
checked. I can't see
new,
which one
sorry, it's the second one, auto diesel vehicle technology employment rate 33%. If those rates get lower, is that because industry is saying we don't need those as much? And how do you decide to bring new in and take certain out?
Yeah.
That makes sense, because everything else is so high that one really
Sure.
stood out.
No. Yeah, busted. You got me on that one. So a couple things on that. So yes, 100% we do keep an eye on that, and accreditors keep an eye on that, and the federal government keeps an eye on that. So a couple things. That particular program combination is combining two core areas, and what we saw with that was most people that were taking that program combination were using it as a bridge to a different program, and then they were dropping one or the other. And then we saw it with actually a lot of veteran students too, and I shouldn't say a lot, but the ones that were doing it were veteran students, and it was like these creative program combinations, and then they would drop out. So if you see there, one of the other things you'll see on that line is it's a very small cohort size, and that's partially why. And then you'll also see the 2 asterisks next to it, and you can't see it very well at the bottom, but we taught that program out for that very reason, because it was just kind of this weird small cohort program, and it didn't accomplish what it was intended to do, so we just got rid of it. So, yeah.
Councilor Vigil.
Thank you. Thanks for being here, President
Yeah.
Morris. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
About how many of your graduates stay in the state of Wyoming past graduation?
I don't have a super accurate number for you on that, but it's very similar and a little bit higher. So I think our rate of actual students that come from Wyoming right now is 7 or 8%. And typically what we see is it's that and then a little bit extra, because we do have some students that, even from Hawaii, that, you know, will say, hey, I want to stick around for a while. Yeah, crazy, right? But yeah, I mean, you'll find Laramie and you'll find Wyoming littered with WyoTech students who either, you know, are from here or not from here. So typically what we see is it's just a tiny bit higher than our actual rate of students, which is 7 or 8%. And again, going back to that, one of the biggest reasons why we have 7 or 8% from Wyoming is because it's the least populated state. If you don't know anything about our admissions, we have admissions representatives that are located in different states across the country, and so we find good territories with students who are good fits at WyoTech, and those reps live there, and they sell WyoTech to those students. And so, you know, we have 3 or 4 reps in California, 3 or 4 reps in Texas, but we have 1 rep in Wyoming, just because there's a much smaller pool there. So.
Councilor Bowling.
Thank you, Mayor Cumbie. And thank you, President Morris. This is fascinating, and I'll admit I don't know as much about WyoTech as I really would like to. So I think really my questions are more about curiosity than anything else.
Sure.
I was curious as to whether or not a representative of the city or the city council attended the community orientation, so I think Councilor Newman sort of addressed that.
I go to them, but I don't speak for council because we can't.
Sure. And I think it would be a wonderful thing if one of us did. Yeah.
I think it would be a wonderful thing, and also I just want to, before we move on to something, extend out the invitation. If anybody has not been to campus or has not been to campus recently, I would love to tour you guys around and show you anything that you want to see.
Well, I would love to come personally and take a tour, so I'll take you up on that. I think I kind of have a couple of questions, but I'll just ask them kind of in order so that the mayor doesn't have to come back to me. I'm curious if you could just tell me a little bit about the application process that students go through, its level of competitiveness, what your sort of acceptance rate versus how many students you have to like wait list or reject every year. I'm also curious as to what the 9-month tuition costs are and how that works, especially with the Title IV. If there's, in addition to student loans, Title IV financial aid available, or if there's a scholarship program for students from low-income backgrounds or students from Wyoming in particular, anything like that. Sure. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so the first part of the question, remind me again.
I'm just curious about the application process, its competitiveness,
process, okay.
Et cetera.
Got it. Yeah, the application process. So again, in terms of competitiveness, our only acceptance requirements are a high school diploma. Acceptance requirements. And then, that's going to mess with me. And then they have to pass what's an interview with an admissions representative. And so, you know, you have to have that high school diploma. And then what we've built into our admissions staff, and this will bridge into your second question about funding and those kinds of things, but what we've built with our admissions staff is that coming to Laramie, Wyoming from Hawaii or Texas or Delaware or Wyoming or wherever it might be is a commitment. And so our admissions representatives are out there looking for students who are a great fit for that. And that great fit is in mindset. It's also in preparedness to be here. And so our admissions reps are empowered to say no to a student that wants to come or to move on and put some attention someplace else. The number that will kind of back that up, and to a certain extent you'll have to take my word for what we call show rate in the industry, but our students show rate, which is basically take the number of students who filled out an application and said I want to come to Wyotech, and we charge a $100 application fee. So take that number of applications and then take the number of students who actually show up to Wyotech in Wyoming and start classes is over 60%, and for this last class it was over 80%. And in this industry, in the sector that we're in, it's pretty rare to see anything even at 50% in terms of a show rate. And so our admissions people are having those conversations with students and moms and dads and families in terms of preparedness and passion and commitment and all of those kinds of things. So, that's really our admissions standard, is they have to be somebody that our admissions team really feels comfortable that wants to be here for the right reasons. In terms of cost, it's our tuition will be going up in July of this year to $34,750 for the 9 months. The Title IV portion of the funding, so due to the nature of our condensed program, a student could not qualify for 100% of funding of that $34,750 through Title IV. It just does not exist that they could say, hey, I want student loans for all of that money and call it good. So part of working with our students is they have to be committed, and they have to be able to pay for their education. And so that could take a Parent Plus loan, or it could take cash, or it could take a 529 or whatever it is. But those students have to be able to commit to funding that education, and it can't just all be, hey, I want student loans and call it good. And so I think all of that kind of goes hand in hand with the family and parent support that we work with to try to find that student who is really committed to coming to Laramie and being successful.
Thank you. And Councilor Newman, you had a comment.
We also have a program for a scholarship, the Love Trades programs.
Oh.
There is, and then like micro, we push that real well. The Jesse Combs Foundation, we push. So there is, if you go to wyotech.edu, there is, scroll to the bottom, I believe there's a spot that you can click. So the students have quick access to scholarships. And then one of our industry relations will send out emails saying, hey, like this employer has a $3,000 scholarship or something. So, and then there are instructors on campus who will give like extra credit if the students go actually do this, because a lot of them really truly won't, which is kind of weird to me because it's free money to them. But there is a scholarship program as well. So I know that was part of your question.
Yeah, thank you both.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then to answer the Vice Mayor's second part of her question, we have focus groups that come in and tell us what industry standards are now, and they usually meet twice a year for every program. So let's say something changes in the trim and upholstery program. We have industry leaders from all over the nation, all different companies that will come in and say, hey, have you thought of this? And then we will have internal focus groups that will either implement that or see if we can implement some of that. So it's not just some stuff that we come up with as a Wyotech. So.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Newman.
And Kyle, I'd just like to thank you very much for coming tonight and giving a report. And I'd like to acknowledge your participation in the town and gown restructuring that began 18 months ago. And I appreciate that there is a continuance of presence from the Student Affairs Group, and they have been attending and they contribute, and it's meaningful to have them at the table. The second thing, I'd like to acknowledge how important the volunteerism is that occurs in the city, and I'm on the board of hospice, and they help us out so much, and they're so willing, and they're so enthusiastic, and it just really means a lot, and we know that we can always depend on them. The last thing I wanted to say is I think that our entire community is quite concerned about housing. And I would like to send you information. There is a Albany County Housing Coalition that has formed to try and disintegrate the silos of individuals meeting about housing and to bring it together in a full coalition. It's we have met now for 6 months, monthly. We have a 7th meeting coming up February 10th, and I just think it'd be good to have you all at the table there. It's an open meeting, and I'd say we have in attendance anywhere between 20 and 30 people at facilitated meetings, so we don't go rampant. So I'll send you that information and get you in touch with the people, because I think you might like to be represented there.
Yes, I do appreciate that, and I believe that I have that, and I was attendance for one of those, and then schedules got crazy, but I do intend to sit on those, but I'd appreciate it if you send that, so I make sure, yes.
Well,
so real quickly, I'll just show you some of the future growth plans that we've got.
Okay.
So the 70 acres that we have across the street, if just to kind of orient you, on the bottom left of that picture is the new Game and Fish building, and then underneath that is across the street from the Game and Fish is, you know, tungsten and BioLife and all that good stuff. And then on the other side is the WyoTech campus there too. So that's Venture Drive that you're looking at. And this is just kind of conceptual, but we do have intentions to grow the campus onto that 70 acres that we own across the street. Our most immediate project, and you know, being members of City Council, some of you will remember that proclamation was read a couple of weeks ago, where we have partnered with the city to apply for some funding through the Wyoming Business Council that would help with this project. And what you see in these designs here is a shop that could have 100 day and 100 night welding students, a couple of hundred advanced diesel, probably more like 160 advanced diesel students, 50 trim and upholstery students, and then 100 day and 100 potentially night ASM students as well. And so that's 500 to 600 additional students that we could have in those buildings, and then as we reshuffle things in the other campus, potentially up to 700 to 800 students that we could increase the capacity of the campus with. So this is a building that we're obviously in process of designing and in process of funding and, you know, pushing forward to see if we can't make this happen, and I think that we will. So that gives you an idea of where that building would go and what the footprint would look like, and the big old parking lot that would go down in the corner there. And again, so that this is oriented where it's been kind of flipped from the last image that we saw. So on top is the WyoTech campus and BioLife and all that good stuff, and then upper right is the new Game and Fish building. And in the center there, again, that's just kind of a hypothetical grand plan for the rest of the campus. Project 2 is much further out and much more expensive, but we are pushing forward to try to figure out a way to fund more housing and more dorms for our students. Currently, we have 620 beds on campus, and then we have another 400 that we lease around town in kind of bigger apartment complexes, and our intention is to build a bigger dorm that would sit on, I'm realizing now that every time I show you this, the image flips, and so it's very confusing. But now the Game and Fish is again on the bottom left, and so the dorm building is, over there on the right side of the property, with, could be a park up there and several other things. So again, these the welding building is much further along, and these others are projects that we have in place that are further out. So, and then this would be kind of that much bigger admin, multiple shops. This is 600,000 square feet that could happen years in the future here that as we continue to grow. So, that just kind of summarizes that. I did actually have somebody ask me right before the meeting, it's actually covered on this slide, but we mentioned the Blairsville campus when I was talking about things earlier, and I know that's kind of out there, but the Blairsville campus was owned by somebody else in the last couple of years that was very unsuccessful, and they have been kind of knocking at the door multiple times to see if we want to come back there, and so it is something that we're kind of kicking the tires on to see if possibilities exist in that area, but no, we have not bought any buildings or made any official decisions in that direction as of this moment. So just to address that as well. But so that is what I have, and I know you asked most of your questions already, but if you have any additional about growth, I'm happy to answer those. Yes?
Councillor Shumway.
Thank you, Your Honor. Great presentation. It's been good information. Just so we can have a general idea, what is the range of starting salaries for a graduate from biotech?
The accreditors won't let me tell you. No, it's actually one of those things, like you're not allowed to promise any kind of salary numbers or anything like that, and so not to be intentionally evasive, but industry typically has to provide that information, but we see students that on a fairly low range are going to be high teens up to, we've seen students start in the 30s and 40s in terms of dollars per hour, and then our students, the thing about the industry that they're going into is if you get your feet in the door and you're successful in pretty short order, you can escalate that fairly quickly, and so six-figure salaries are well within reach in a few years for our students, but it depends. If you're going into a shop where you're a collision shop on an entry level, you might make $17 an hour to start off with, and then have the potential to double that within a couple of years. If you're going into a diesel shop, you might make $27 an hour coming out and have the same potential too. It really just depends on the industry and the company, and yeah, it's one of those things that we get slapped around if we try to promise any kind of rate to anybody, and rightfully so. I mean,
Councillor Newman.
I don't have to promise anything because I have students who reach back out to me. So the lowest that I've seen is like 45 a year, so 45,000. I have a student who still comes to Bible study. He makes $140,000 his second year out of school. So it kind of all depends, but part of that is the 140,000. He works at a mine, and so he's taking all the extra overtime that he can too, right? So it's kind of a big scale, but it's more what the student wants to accomplish when they leave. But yeah.
And I think, again, one of the important things, and I'll extend this invitation too, we have a career fair every 3 months, as I mentioned. Our next career fair is February 11th and 12th, and I would love to have any and all of you attend that to see the 100 employers that come out. Again, these employers are paying their own way to compete for students, and so it's very much in an environment where industry is starving for employees, for good employees. And so, you know how that impacts wages and what people are willing to do. We see a lot of tuition reimbursement programs. One thing that I forgot to mention, it's kind of a cool partnership that we've developed in the last couple of years, but Waste Connections is a huge waste disposal service. Most people have heard of Waste Management. Waste Connections is almost just as big. They're like a 30,000 employee company or something like that, basically employ the entire city that we live in their company across the nation. But they came to our career fairs and developed a partnership with us that ended up in them putting a program out where any dependent of a Waste Connection employee across the country that wants to come to Wyotech, they'll pay their entire education and housing and then guarantee them a job for, I believe it's 3 years, 2 or 3 years on the back end. And we've got, I think, 30 plus students that are currently in attendance through that program. So one company that says, that's the school. If you want to go there, we got you covered, and then come back and work for us.
Councilor Lockhart.
Going back to the income these kids are making, I don't think it was this graduation, but the one previous on social media, there was a great blog and interviewing kids that got jobs and what they made, and I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
Because these kids are fired up.
Yeah.
And I think that helps the school because in enrollment, people want to go, but I thought, well, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Because, thank gosh we have the university here, but not everybody's meant for that. And you come out here and talking about $100,000 a year jobs, and you went to school for 9 or 12 months.
Yeah.
And don't have $100,000 in debt, so.
Yeah,
hallelujah. But I think you guys should continue to do that on social media.
Good time to have those skills. And yeah, if Johnny or Sally comes back and says, this is what I'm making and this is what the company, or if the company comes back and says, this is what I am offering, but if I come out and say, hey, this is what I promise, it's different, so.
And Councilor Newman.
This is just a comment for city staff. We should go get one of these booths at the career fair, because there are other cities who come and take some of these students from and keeping them here in Wyoming. So I don't know if I've mentioned that before, but it's something we should look at to keep some of those good potential workers here in Laramie.
Yeah. And that reminded me of your prior question too, in terms of funding and scholarships and things like that. Just as an FYI, Wyotech students, again, as a for-profit, do not qualify for Hathaway funding or any of those. So a Wyoming student that wants to use Hathaway funds cannot choose to use those at Wyotech. And with the state legislature session starting, take that for what you will, but if you know anybody, put in a good word for us. But that is a thing, that the funding that a Wyoming student could choose to use for their education, they can't use that at Wyotech. So.
Vice Mayor?
Thank you. One last question for me, and can you remind us, I believe this has been mentioned before, but the timeline for those expansions, the building expansions?
Oh, yeah. So the welding building, on a super aggressive best case scenario kind of a timeline, we could see that being opened in fall of 2026, maybe summer of 2026 if we're, again, perfect scenario of everything. We've got a lot of steps to get through before, but that's what we're driving toward right now. Again, it may get pushed back, but that's the timeline.
And Councilor Lockhart.
Last question, I promise. I know WyoTech used to have like a business program for students. Has that gone to the away?
This guy sitting right next to you knows a lot about it, but
I just didn't see it in the listing right here.
So it's applied service management, or it's called like when it's management.
Okay, all right.
So, yeah,
Okay.
that's their degree
I
program.
was trying to figure out where you fit in.
That's what I teach.
Well, that's what I'm like. I just
Councilors.
business, so
Yeah,
that's
so
why. Okay,
Nope.
fantastic.
it's called
Please try to
Applied
avoid
Service
cross-talking.
Management, and it's one of those 3-month additionals. And it's a good question, because if a student takes that 3-month add on the Applied Service Management, they walk away with an associate's degree. And so most of our programs are diploma degree certifications that, the industry recognizes, but the student that takes that business program will actually walk away with an associate's degree. And another thing that reminded me of too, which is probably premature, but it's pretty far along the works, but we're in pretty good conversation with the university on our students being able to enter into their CTE teaching program with a transfer of those credits too.
Kyle, thank you so much. Are there any comments from the public on this work item? Yes, if you have a comment, come forward. Please state your name for the record.
I'm Ryan Hershey. I just want to say thanks to Kyle for coming out and putting on that presentation. I have to say my experiences with you, or WyoTech students, have been fantastic. They come and they shop at my store. They're kind, they're courteous, they're prompt, and they're always on time too. Those guys, they keep them running on a tight schedule there. And I think they're doing a great job to just prepare these guys and girls for the future. And for quite a while, I've always told parents when I see them coming into town with their, WyoTech students and that, and tour the downtown and that, I tell them, you just put down the best dollar for the, education in town. So, thanks. I appreciate you.
Thank you for your comments. All right. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate your coming tonight, and it's been most informative. We'll now move on to our second work item, and that is from Laramie Community College, and I welcome President Schaefer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. Good evening. Thank you for the invitation to come over and share a little bit about LCCC and really LCCC through our Laramie campus. I just have to say it was actually quite a treat to listen to the update at WyoTech. It doesn't seem all that long ago when we were over here meeting with Mr. Morris and a few other staff thinking, what's the future going to look like with Corinthian colleges folding and a lot of the challenges that were going on with UCMC at the time. And so the conversation and really the outcome when Mr. Mathis came in and really his vision and what he's done is fantastic. Not only is there sort of a sweet spot in my heart for WyoTech because of the education mission, I tell you, it is probably one of your best primary sector companies in the community. It produces something, brings people from elsewhere to spend their money in Laramie and then place them elsewhere. It's a wonderful model, I think, for education, especially for career and technical education. So kudos to President Morris and Mr. Mathis and what they've done, and how exciting is that to see the growth potential here in Laramie as well. So, Madam Mayor, I thought I'd start, I know I don't want to go long here, but I'd start with just a brief overview of the structured community colleges in Wyoming, because that will relate to our role in Laramie and Albany County. Most of you, I think, are aware we have 8 community colleges, 7 for many years, and then with the separation between Sheridan College and Gillette College formally became our 8th community college. Every community college by statute has a district. To create a community college, the voters of a district, and they're all counties in the state, have to vote to actually form the community college and to tax themselves to pay for the community college. With that taxation, then, they also elect 7 members to a board of trustees. Some college districts choose to do that at large. Some choose to do that by division or subunit within their communities, but they have essentially that as their governing board. Back in, well, really back a ways, but then in 2009, 2008, there was a Blue Ribbon Commission on Community Colleges, and that's really when the state said, for the state's portion of the funding we put into the community colleges, we are going to assign each of you a service area. And so community colleges have a district, their county, and then they're also assigned a service area with the expectation that for the state funding that you receive, you will provide services into these service areas. The simplest one is Casper College, whose district is Natrona County, and its service area is Natrona County. We're a little envious of the simplicity there. And there are some, like Western Wyoming Community College or Eastern Wyoming Community College, that have multiple counties that stretch hundreds of miles for their service area. We feel pretty fortunate. Our district is Laramie County, but our service area includes Laramie County and Albany County. So our expectation is to deliver services to Albany County. Now, the way community colleges do that and the relationships that they have with each county is soup to nuts. It is very, very different. Eastern Wyoming College has a building in Converse County in Douglas that was actually built and is maintained through local taxes from Converse County. Currently, Central Wyoming Community College is working on some type of annexation process and facilities in Teton County in Jackson and figuring out how to serve those. And then, of course, we've had the longstanding history over here. So that's why we serve Albany County. I do like to say a little bit tongue-in-cheek that one of my jobs is to serve the University of Wyoming, and we try to do that quite well, and I'll chat about that in a second. But just some quick history, because I don't think many people realize that. We've actually been in Albany County since 1977. We came over here and were actually asked by the school district at that time to take over 2 functions. The first was their adult basic education GED, general high school equivalency work, and the second function was to take over their licensed vocational nurse program, which became an LPN program. And so we did the LPN program for about 10 years from 1977 to 1987, and continue to serve the adult basic education and the high school equivalency function for the community of Albany County. In 1987, we established more of a formalized outreach center and went into the Laramie Plains Civic Center and have some fond memories. Some people look at that with greater fondness than others, but it was a nice sort of origin story, if you will, for the role of LCCC over here. And we functioned down there really up until the early 2000s. And then in 2004, the city council actually in the city gave 10 acres in the Turner Track to LCCC. We were required for accepting that 10 acres to do 2 things. One was to essentially install the utilities to get out there, curb, gutter, sewer, those types of things. And I think that was wise. We were able to leverage funds to do that, and the city was actually able to get some critical infrastructure spread out a little bit further within Turner Track. The other thing we were required to do, and we do to this day, is actually have a relationship with the city where we provide access to city employees to many of our training courses, life enrichment, and the other courses that we offer through the Laramie campus out there. We built that new building and opened it in 2005. It actually was first built by lease revenue bonds that our foundation let. We refinanced that, brought those underneath the LCCC Building Authority. Long story short, we just paid those off in 2024, so it's kind of exciting to have that facility owned free and clear, and not to have those bond payments, which gives us some additional revenue that we're able to put back into the operations. So that's the history, and we still function and feel like the relationship and presence in the community has been just exceptional. We have over time struggled with the financial aspect of the outreach center over here. We are not allowed to use Laramie County taxpayer dollars for that, and so the revenue is really the proportion that we can derive from the state revenue based on enrollments, and then tuition dollars. And as I'll chat about, tuition dollars generally don't stimulate accumulate a lot. And so it has been one of those programmatic areas where we struggled at times to make sure that we're balancing the budget with the Laramie campus. A few years ago, we kind of reset and established a focus on what the core of our purpose was over here, and that seems to really be paying dividends. And so, Madam Mayor, I'll chat about that core. We really have four primary goals, if you will, or primary components to our mission over here. The first one is to help current UW students and UW-bound students succeed, and I'll talk about that. The second is working closely with Albany County School District 1 and helping high school students essentially accelerate their way towards higher education. The third is providing customized business training to help employers in Laramie or in Albany County with emerging needs. And then the fourth is the adult basic education high school equivalency piece. And that's really the focus. So when people ask, what do you do in Albany County and Laramie, it's those four things. And I thought what I'd do just quickly is give you a quick update on how we're doing with some of those. With regard to the university, I think people are oftentimes surprised how many students we actually serve on the university campus. So we provide the developmental mathematics coursework for UW students who do not meet mathematics readiness when they enter into the university. Right now, on average, that's about 600 students a year. We are on the university campus. Students register them as university students through the university system, but they receive instruction directly from us, from our faculty, and through our curriculum. And then there's some wonderful enrollment sharing that we do behind the scenes. But essentially, it allows us to bring our skill set to the university table and prepare students to be successful as university students. We no longer, LCCC, no longer offer developmental mathematics coursework or developmental English coursework. That coursework being when a student comes out of high school or has been out of school for a while and needs some catch-up, some remediation. The research is just pretty compelling that that's not the most effective way to get students college ready. We use now what's called a co-requisite model, where a student enrolls for the college level course and in addition receives supplemental instruction as part of that course. So they actually get caught up or we remediate where their issues are while allowing to finish the college level course within their first semester. And that has been incredibly successful for us in Cheyenne. And then just a year ago, the university said, let's try it on the university. And so we rolled that out last year. This year, it's gotten a little bit larger. So we're actually teaching, for example, college algebra in a co-requisite piece. So if a student comes into the university and they're not quite prepared to tackle college algebra level mathematics, we enroll them in this coursework. They get the college algebra. And then in the off days, we actually work with them to fill whatever gaps they need wherever they're struggling and what they're doing. And that's showed that promise. And so we've added another 30 or 40 students in there and hope the university will continue to grow that and help that work. And so that's been sort of a long-standing role that we've had with the university, is providing that mathematics. The other piece that we're doing, though, is really just helping students who come to the university and sometimes need a different experience for a class. And so most of the students that take classes at the Laramie campus of LCCC are actually duly enrolled with the University of Wyoming. They may come out for a smaller class size. They may come out to get a different approach to a class they're struggling with. Honestly, they may come out because there's a schedule conflict at the university that they want to be there. And so we do try to work closely with them. And as a result, many of our students have consortial agreements between LCCC and the university to actually be able to get financial aid and apply it to both entities. And then the last update I'll share is a program that we're trying to roll out. It's starting very softly now. It'll roll out next fall. And it's called the Express Transfer Agreement, or ETA. You've maybe seen it in the news a little bit. The university over the years has been I'll just say beat up about the issues of course transfer or transfer from community colleges. It's a rare legislative session where we don't have that conversation. Unfortunately, much of that conversation has been focused on the wrong issue. The university is incredibly gracious in accepting credits and courses from the university or the community colleges. In fact, it is a rare case where they say we will not accept those courses. And people are focused on that. The real issue is that most community college students don't actually ever transfer to the university. When our students, LCCC students, transfer to the University of Wyoming, they actually post higher first-term GPAs on average than native university students, and they graduate at some of the highest rates in the country. Wyoming is generally in 7th or 8th in the nation with regard to baccalaureate completion of community college transfers. So it's not the fact that they're not taking the credits or our students can't be successful. It's the fact that students don't transfer. And so we ask them essentially, so why don't you transfer? You finished 2 years of a baccalaureate degree at a community college, and then you don't move to finish the last 2. It just doesn't make sense. And we found 3 things out that cause that. The first thing deals more with program clarity, and that's where there is some curricular alignment. We say this is your 4-year path. By the time they get over here or they talk to somebody over here, the curriculum's changed and that's no longer the 4-year path. And so creating that coherence from day 1 to graduation and making sure students understand that. The second thing is really pretty simple. They don't have a relationship with the university. They don't have a contact. They don't know anybody over there. And you dig into who succeeds in transfers. I have a brother, a sister, a friend. I have somebody who works at the university. But those that don't have a relationship very rarely find a way to make that transition. And then the third one, not surprising, is they're not quite sure how to transfer and they're not quite sure how they're going to pay for it when they do transfer. So pretty simple. The ETA program at the university is going to test, can we remove that? And so it's exciting. So the first thing is when a student comes to LCCC and they say, I'm here to be an education major and then I'm going to transfer to the University of Wyoming, they've answered a couple other questions on their application and they're duly admitted from day 1. They are a student of LCCC and the University of Wyoming as well. So that's the first thing. Second thing is we're locking in and guaranteeing their curriculum. Just as if we published it in our catalog, this is what you're guaranteed. As long as you stay enrolled, this is what your curriculum will look like for 4 years. So there's no question about what I will take when I get to the university, and there's no question about whether or not my courses will transfer to them. And then the other thing is they get dual advising. So they have a contact person at the university assigned from day 1 so that they know who to talk to there and they know who to talk to here. And there's some cool things we're also doing. They'll get a UW student ID card. They'll be invited to football games and UW events and all that great stuff. And we think that if we can do this and start to do it at scale, we're going to whittle away at those transfer issues. We'll start this fall with 4 programs, 2 education, elementary and secondary, with business and with criminal justice, and then we'll scale that quickly to psychology, computer science, and a few other programs with the hope of going at scale. So pretty exciting work with the university if we can make that work. Quickly on relationship with Albany County School District 1, most of our work with them is focused around dual and concurrent enrollment, and actually that's an area we've seen incredible growth. I think we've seen over 100% growth just in the number of high school students enrolling in college level courses. Last fall, for example, we had 86 students enrolled in 262 credits in concurrent enrollment, and we had 207 students enrolled in 923 credits through dual enrollment, many of them actually coming across the street and sitting on the Laramie campus in one of the college level courses. Also, and I don't know how many of you know this, we have an automotive tech program on the Laramie High School campus. If you've been through their facilities, you know how wonderful that building is, that facility is. Their automotive center is wonderful as well. They struggle at times to have the teachers to fill those, and so we do call this dual fusion. It's a dual enrollment. It's our faculty teaching our curriculum, but it's on the high school campus, and that's been an incredibly successful program. So we have 33 students that enrolled in the program for fall. It's a 1-year program. Through that, they get 2 ASC certifications, and then also will receive a certificate from us. And so last year we had 18 students graduate with our credential as well as the ASC certifications, and hopefully these 33 will continue. We also have a culinary program that we started because of some of the wonderful facilities and what they're doing, and that's very similar. It leads towards industry certifications, Serve Safe, Safe Serve certifications, but they can also get a certificate from us. We currently have 11 students enrolled in this fall, and it's a 2-year sequence. I think there'll be 6 that will graduate this coming spring. So really exciting. The last thing I'll share about the school district is we've really been trying to figure out how we help populations at Whiting, and really getting out to Rock River as well. And one of the things we've rolled out with Whiting, with a group of their students that are part of the NOW initiative, and I don't know all the details there. It's the New Opportunity Wyoming, and it's a relationship with the university, but essentially helping those students explore opportunities for learning through internships and through other types of learning modalities. We actually offer a career-focused student success course that aligns with what we do for all first-year students, but it essentially exposes these students to a variety of occupations, predominantly in the career and technical areas, the trades, and helps them get a leg up and started moving into those fields. And so we've been doing that now for a few semesters. This is the first one where we're trying to do it with Rock River with a hybrid model because of the distance, and seems to be working and very well received. And the good news is many of those students who otherwise probably wouldn't have gone on to pursue training or education beyond high school are choosing to do so. So very exciting. Business training and community education, we got just great things that are going on there, and I want to just hit on a couple of them. This last fall, we did a business needs assessment survey and engaged about, I think we had 80 responses from businesses in Albany County and Laramie to ask them what their needs were, and not surprising, a lot of the needs were those soft skills and professional skills training for incumbent employees, as well as some specific industry training. And so we'll actually be rolling out some soft skills training here this spring in partnership with the Laramie Chamber Business Alliance, including new supervisor training, as well as some professionalism training. And we're also going to be offering the OSHA 10 certification for the first time on the Laramie campus. And those were two areas that businesses said they really need some help over here. I'm also excited because some of our healthcare programming over here has started to ramp back up. We've now offered, I believe, phlebotomy coursework for the past 2 years. I think we've had 30 completers to date, and then just this last fall we had a partnership with Climb Wyoming and graduated 6 moms out of that who all passed their tests, have jobs. In fact, one of them is now coming into our nursing program, and she never thought that she would do that. So trying to do the things that we're doing and doing them better for the community. We'll be offering 2 manufacturing courses this spring in partnership with our Advanced Manufacturing and Materials Center in Cheyenne, and really intended to target some of the needs for continuing and advanced education for the manufacturers that you have here, like High-Vis, for example. And then a bunch of programs in the works, rolling out a CNA program again, which we used to have, medical coding and pharmacy technician. The adult basic education stuff is going well as can be. I don't know that I need to go into that or any great details. There are 3 other highlights that I want to hit. The first one is just how we're serving our community, and we've really tried to change the service hours and the approach on the campus to serve the high school population, and specifically the family population that's engaging. So we've done some good work there, which I think is pretty exciting. We're trying to be better community members, certainly participating in the Town and Gown efforts and finding out how we can and our students can play a better role in shaping and making a positive community. But last year, we, in partnership with Wyotech and with the university, we actually brought students together and did sort of a combined educational tailgate party at one of the football games. And it was a great opportunity for students from very different walks of life and very different goals, let alone educational settings, to come together. And so we're trying to find ways to create those partnerships. And of course, that facility that's out there and what we do out there is far beyond just education. It's a community-based facility, and we're really trying to support the community. This last year, we actually provided space for the Albany County Housing Coalition to meet each month, and that's the type of space we want to continue to provide and to make open. And so with that, Madam Mayor, it was fast. There's a lot going on, but we really feel like we've found that niche of what we should be doing in Laramie and Albany County, and feel like we're stepping up and doing what we can. We're always open to new ideas. I do want to give just a personal nod to your Assistant City Manager, Mr. Todd Fieser, he stay back there, who serves on our advisory committee and is also the ex officio trustee to the Board of Trustees. So while we only have trustees elected from the district, Laramie County, the board, in its wisdom, felt it was important to have the voice from Albany County, and many years ago, within their governing bylaws, established 2 ex officio members. One is a student ex officio, the other is a member from Albany County. And while they don't have voting rights on the board, they are at this table and they have privilege of the floor at any time and engage in that. So it's important, and Todd's been a wonderful man to fill that role for us recently. So with that, Madam Mayor, I'd be happy to stand and answer any questions.
Thank you, President Schaefer. Are there any questions? Councilor Newman?
I have a comment and a question. My comment is, it's pretty cool to see every post high school, college that we have here in town working together. Because if you look around the nation, that's not always the case. So it's pretty cool to hear president from all the institutions talking how they have a good working relationship. So I truly appreciate that, as it looks like so does council. My question was on the ASE certs. Are those ASE student certs, or are they just or are they regular ASE certs? Do you know?
Madam Mayor, Councilman Newman, it's my understanding they are the industry certifications, and I'm going to get out of my area of expertise there. But so these are the entry level, and they have terms like undercarriage and electrical systems, but these are the very first fundamental ASE certifications. So at the end of, I believe, the first semester and then the second semester, they will sit for those ASE examinations, or they do them all at the end of the second semester. And our goal with that program is to have them walk out with an industry recognized credential, as well with the culinary program.
Awesome. Okay, thank you.
Vice Mayor?
Thank you. Thanks so much for presenting to us. I just have a few questions. One was a clarifying question. I believe you said that Laramie County isn't taxed for Albany County work. Is that correct? Or Albany County doesn't pay taxes for this facility, right?
Yep.
Can you clarify that?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, Madam Vice Mayor, we're going. That's another story for another time. We're going through an interesting brand research analysis, and you probably heard me stumble over that tonight. Our names are incredibly confusing. Laramie County Community College in Cheyenne with a campus in Laramie, which is Albany County. We actually had a student from Wisconsin, believe it or not, shame on us, who enrolled with the college that came out to be in one of our equine programs and teams, and rented an apartment in Laramie because she thought that's where LCCC was. So shame on us. But so the confusion, after 13 years, I still mix the words. So we are not able to use Laramie County tax dollars to fund Albany County activities with that. And so Albany County doesn't have any direct revenue or direct funding of the campus over here.
Thank you for that clarification. And then can you give a quick update on the number of staff and what enrollment has looked like for you all over the last little bit?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, Madam Vice Mayor, happy to do that. I should have brought the staff numbers, but I want to say we have about 50 employees that are there at this juncture, many of which are our full-time faculty. Our enrollments this last year will exceed just over 1,100 across all different things. So that's high school-based enrollments, university, and the traditional on-campus enrollments. We had 700 students this last fall, but we count 12-month unduplicated head count because we have students that enroll in one semester or another. So about 1,100. Our goal is to get back up to about 1,500, which is where we were at the kind of the peak of the Great Recession when everybody returned to higher education. Yeah.
Any further questions? Councilor Freed?
Yeah, President Schaefer, thanks for the presentation. And I don't have a question, just more of a statement, and just appreciate the presentation and all the work that you're doing. And I've heard in the community what a powerful force LCCC is and what it does here. So just want to say thanks.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Councilor. Appreciate that. And we had faculty back on campus for the first time today, and I delivered my spring in service. And some of the impact that we believe the college is really having is pretty inspiring, even in light of the headwinds. In many ways, the story that you heard from Wyotech, even though we're facing declining high school graduates, there's enrollment issues. We know the university is struggling with those. Our enrollment is up significantly. Our first-time freshmen are up 10%. I mean, with the right value proposition and the right mentality and culture, there are still people who want to pursue a post-secondary education with the right institution. So it's exciting. Thank you for recognizing that.
Councilor O'Doherty.
Thank you, President Schaefer. I really impressed by your express transfer agreement. I think that was brilliant. I didn't understand that, so when somebody gets an associate's degree, then they're finished and they're off the rolls, and then they have to matriculate as a new student at UW. So now you've made it so it's just one time. Do they still get an associate's degree?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, Councilor Dodry, that's actually a good question. We actually find the data will say if they finish an associate degree with us and transfer, they actually transfer at higher rates and more expeditiously than if they don't. And so that's been a piece we've been working on, is for the university to incentivize the completion of the associate's degree to do that. But it's amazing how few actually were making that leap, and we struggled with that. And I will tell you, shame on us, part of it's our fault. We surveyed all of our psychology is one of our largest transfer programs, folks that want to go into behavioral health at a time when we really need them. And only 33% of those that finish the Associate of Science will actually ever transfer to a four-year institution. And so we surveyed them and said, why? And we found out some of those pieces, but the thing shocked us. I didn't know that I had to transfer, or that this is what this degree. And so shame on us. So we're just shaping that conversation so that is an inescapable aspect of what they're doing. The other piece we're really focused on, we've got a large project we're working on with the Aspen Institute and the Community College Research Center at Columbia, trying to shift the focus to post-completion success. For many decades, really from the 60s to 2000s, everything about community colleges was open access and affordability. It's get people in the door. And then early on in the 2000s, when we started using data much more purposefully, and we had things like No Child Left Behind, Love It or Hate It, brought attention to outcomes, and community colleges didn't look so hot. And so then for the next 2 decades, we've been working on completion, getting them across the stage. But now we're thinking about post-completion success, because lo and behold, we have graduates. 1 out of 2 students at LCCC that complete an AA or an AS, the first 2 years of baccalaureate degree, only 1 out of 2 will ever show up on a 4-year campus. It's just not acceptable. But we gave them the diploma, they walked across the stage, and so this is really trying to strengthen that partnership, be more purposeful, and make that transition inescapable.
Yes.
Councilor Doherty?
So, yeah, I would think that that one thing that might intimidate a student, and I know a lot of people that could be intimidated by a larger campus, and being able to handle the just all the mechanics of the transfers. So I applaud you on that. But I was thinking that I wouldn't want him to be intimidated, like if I sign up for this 4-year program, what if I don't make it? So it sounds like you're having success so they can still get the associates, and then they have that in their pocket and then can move on. So anyway, I'm really happy I didn't know that this existed, and I'm pleased to hear it. Thanks.
Thank you.
And Councilor Lockhart.
Thanks so much. This is very informative, President Schaefer. Along the lines of the transfer issue that you've been having, how long have you done the dual advisor, where you have one at LCCC and one at UW? And if it's not been real long, do you think that's going to help with understanding that they can transfer, or they should transfer, and what are the next steps to do in their education?
Madam Mayor, through you, Councilor Lockhart, it'll be brand new. I'm almost ashamed to say it sounds pretty simple, something that you should do. We've never had that in place, and so we're piloting it this spring and allowing a handful of students to kind of opt in, and honestly, they're kind of helping us work the kinks out, and then we'll scale that in the fall. I hope that persists. One of the biggest questions we have is whether or not we can take this to scale, and we're committed at LCCC, and I believe President Seidel is committed too. There's just lots of changing faces at the university, and so we really need to nail that down, and we're hoping to actually codify this in some type of formalized agreement. But hands down, if we could do 2 things to improve transfer, it's going to be align the curriculum, and it's going to be give them somebody that's their person over here as soon as possible, and that's going to help that, because when people know who they are, the likelihood they're willing to tackle the intimidation increases substantially. So watch that, and I would say hold me accountable and hold President Seidel accountable, because we need more baccalaureate graduates in the state if we're going to fuel our future workforce. So in fact, we need it all.
Vice Mayor?
Thank you. So this is just a comment. I just want to make a plug for property taxes right now. This vital part of our community colleges that are filling these important roles in our workforce are fueled by property taxes. And so that is something that I think we need to make sure that we share with community members, because it's more than, it's other community services. So keeping that in mind.
Madam Mayor, Madam Vice Mayor, Laramie County property taxes generate now about 27% of our revenue. It used to be 20%. It is incredibly important to our revenue mix. Yeah.
Very good. I have just a couple questions.
Please.
I'm curious about some of the programs that you have established that are customizing toward business, healthcare, et cetera, and you talk about manufacturing and that type of thing. What percentage of that is offered locally in Laramie, and what percentage would you say require people to travel over to Cheyenne to receive that instruction?
Wonderful question, Madam Mayor. Most of the community-based training activities are offered here. So for example, you've probably seen our semi-truck around town. Hopefully you've seen that, or no, we also have Your Truck, Our Driver program as well. We purchased our fourth semi-truck, I think it was the third, now we have four, and moved it over here so we could deliver CDL certification training in Albany County specifically. The phlebotomy coursework all here. The manufacturing courses we're trying to bring here. I know Tungsten and High-Vis are bringing students over to Cheyenne for our compressed CNC operator and those types of things. But we're really trying to provide those over here. Honestly, one of our challenges over the years, there's been a demand for us to stand up degree programs over here, and just never the numbers of students or job opportunities. So what we're finding is if we tailor the programming specific to needs, so we'll likely work on a medical tech type program for Ivinson. They need it. If we can stand that up, and even if we offer it only once a year in the fall, we figure we can do that. But we're really trying to focus those customized job programs and making sure they're available here to really limit the amount of time anybody would have to come over the hill. We do have some starter pathway degrees where they can get their degree that leads to transfer to the university or like into our healthcare programs, and those can be completed entirely over here as well.
Thank you. And I really appreciate the goal related to customize business and working with business. And do you see yourself, or do you see LCCC as expanding in workforce development, educational opportunities, where we're increasing the number of skilled technicians and tradespeople?
Madam Mayor, I would say the simple answer is yes, we see us doing that. The complex answer is trying to determine how and where we do that. We stand ready to respond to true viable needs in Albany County. I think what will help Albany County is as it grows certain industry sectors and specifically grows positions that lead to a livable wage, it'll be easier for us to do that. Right now, we've found it easier to take manufacturing and grab two employers who we know have jobs, those jobs are paying good wages, and then tailor our training to what they need. In lieu of that, we're going to try to do more broad field approaches. The OSHA 10 certification could feed many industries, and to get to that, the one piece, and this is a state issue, and probably an issue here as well, much of the noise, it's not noise, much of the rising concern around available workforce, unfortunately, are for jobs that are low-skilled or semi-skilled and oftentimes below what we would set as a livable wage. For us, a livable wage is $43,000 for a single individual after they leave us, and that's why we're envious of some of the Wyotech starting wages as well. But we see some of that. Many of these jobs are still paying below that, and they are retail and service sector, and they're important to an economy, but you have to have a diverse mix. It's been our issue. So we are being a little bit more honest when we say we're probably not going to put a lot of time and resources into a training program if what you're going to do is put them in a low-skilled, $13, $15, $16 an hour job. And honestly, if it doesn't give our graduates a differential or a preference from what somebody you would hire off the street, we're probably not going to put a lot of resources in that. So no, we're doing that more to protect our students and to really help communities focus on growing the type of occupations and careers we want to see here.
Thank you. And I think just in my last comment, I would really like to commend the community outreach that you have emphasized. And just how meaningful that was to the restructuring of Town and Gown. There was full participation in our accreditation process and continues to be. And the way that Jenny Hendricks reaches out and attends and pulls things together has done a lot to knit together relationships and coalitions. And I really appreciate that. And thank you for the space that you have provided and lunch occasionally out at the campus for the Albany County Housing Coalition. And I think that your support has helped that group move forward in a meaningful way. And so I just want to acknowledge you for that. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to point out for the council and express my appreciation to LCCC for the follow-through that President Schaefer has just talked to you about. That is, I believe, not entirely, but partially an outgrowth of Laramie's economic development plan and the strategy and work that went into that in 2019. It was essential to us that in developing our economic development plan that we actively engage LCCC, the University of Wyoming, Wyotech, and any other educational partners that we could find. And so we developed a steering committee. LCCC and President Schaefer granted the use of their staff to sit on that steering committee, and we had extensive discussions around Strategy 4, which eventually became the fourth tenet under our economic development plan, was just to strengthen connections between educational and training providers and employers, basically. And so it's so just heartening for me after doing all that work in 2019, you all adopting that plan in 2020 to realize here we are. I just looked it up. We had 5-year objectives, and one of the objectives under Strategy 4 was to create curricula, apprenticeship, internship programs, et cetera, that aligned with the need of business. And so when you talk about Tungsten, High-Vis, those are both businesses that this city recruited to Laramie and secured grants to entrench in this community. The homes that they are located in were built by grants secured by the city of Laramie, and then to be able to work with LCCC and our educational partners to make sure they have the talent they need to be successful in those brand new homes that we built for them. It's just is really exciting and couldn't be done without you. So thank you for addressing that. I just wanted to point out the synergy that we've been able to create in the last 4 and 5 years. Thanks.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate your coming tonight.
Thank you for the invitation.
And now, is there any comment from the public? Yes. If you come up to the podium and please state your name for the record.
My name is Eric Henderson, and my question is actually for LCCC, as it's unclear to me what the housing support function is in residence life in Albany County comparable to Laramie County with respect to this institution. Thank you.
Would you like me to address that, Madam Mayor?
Do you wish to entertain that question?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Housing's a wonderful topic, isn't it? Across the board, we're all struggling with that. We currently do not provide housing for students. There has been ongoing conversation and willingness for the university to do that if students opt to choose their degree path with us. And so on the occasion, we can do that. But honestly, because of the housing challenges over here and just trying to figure out which programs to support, we have not opted to have residential-based programs. We did explore at one time destination programs. We tinkered with a craft brewing program. You probably have heard about that, hoping that we could create some type of destination similar to what Wyotech has done. Our mission, unfortunately, it differs from Wyotech. If I export all of our graduates, I'll get fired, even if I do, and so it's just a different mission. Not that theirs is bad or good. They're fueling, America's workforce, but I've got to keep those students here, and that's been one of our challenges, is bringing students even to Laramie and then they leave. It's a challenge that I know the university has to tackle as well. So at this point in time, we don't actually house them. If a student wants to be housed on the Cheyenne campus and take courses over here, of course, we have some students that will do that. And then in those extreme cases, we'll work with the university.
What's the percentage of housing available in Cheyenne?
Order, please. Order, please. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. there any other comments from the public? Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, and we appreciate your participation. Thank you. Next, I'd like to go to City Council updates and council comments. Councilor Bowling, do you have any updates of meetings and things that you might have attended?
Yes, I know I'm first in the roll call, so I should have been prepped for that. Sorry.
Oh, sorry about that.
Mayor. Yes, just very quickly, I did attend the Laramie Public Art Coalition retreat meeting last Friday. The only update around that is that there's some like board training happening with an outside consultant, and that is leading towards the leadership transition that will happen when Executive Director Laura McDermott leaves in March. So there's a timeline now and a search committee to replace that position, and I can update people as we find suitable candidates. I also was able to attend the Laramie Emergency Planning Committee meeting on Monday of this week. It was mostly 2024 reporting. I have an entire list of accomplishments that's 5 pages long. I won't go through, but I will email it to the rest of council if you'd like to review. A couple things to note that the committee did establish a new subcommittee for long-term power outage planning, which hadn't previously existed. I actually will be sitting on that as well. And then established also an inclement weather planning subcommittee. The only other things to note, and Fire Chief Johnson would be better at responding to this than I am, but I would like to note that we have sent at least one Type 6 fire engine and several staff to Southern California right now to assist with the disaster that is unfolding there. And so I'd just really like to uplift those staff and the city and the fire department for responding as community members. So that's it for now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Councilor Bowling, I would ask that if you have a document that you want to share with council members, if you will send that to the city clerk, she will then disseminate the document to the council.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Councilor Vigil.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Cumby. I think some of my newer colleagues got lucky and had all of their boards and commissions like right away last week. That is not the case for me quite yet. I'm looking forward to our Town and Gown Steering Committee meeting. That'll be February 6th from 10 to 11:30. So just in light of some of our presentations this evening, I'm really excited to be able to get to work on behalf of council on that.
Thank you. Councilor Shumway.
Thank you, Your Honor. No meetings and no updates.
Thank you. Councilor O'Doherty.
The Laramie Advisory Commission on Disabilities met the very first Thursday of January. I was glad I saw that notice on Facebook because I was on vacation. Anyway, so we're getting ready for Disability Awareness Month. We're very excited about the progress with the accessible playgrounds. We talked about engaging the school district in the disability awareness. One of the members brought up the fact that the schools have adaptive PE programs, and maybe we could bring that to light. And we also talked about maybe acknowledging the snow angels in March, if we could make a fuss about people that have been kind enough to help shovel some other people's walks. And then they elected a new chair, Andre Fecto. And then I found out, I said at our meeting last week that the Community Services, Juvenile Community Services Board. I thought it was defunct because the county website is out of date, but it does in fact meet, so I did get another board, and it meets quarterly, and the next meeting is on the 27th at the Commissioners' Room. And I think that's all for updates for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Doherty. I'll report, let's see, the day after, 8 hours after being elected mayor, I had a meeting for the civil service, and we looked at some promotion training applications and some higher completions for the police, for LPD. And the chief pointed out that there are not that many because we are close to fully staffed, very close. And so that was good news. This morning, Vice Mayor and I met with President Seidel and also with Dr. Kim Olson with Community Development, talking about how, to explore ways to partnership and to increase partnership between the university and the council and the city. And I thought it was a rather robust conversation. We took the opportunity to present some of the hard work and the hard lift that has been done on the revitalization of our boards, commissions, and committees, and looked at and pointed out ways that the university has participated and contributed to those boards, and explored ways that we can continue to do that. So we'll continue to work on that. President Seidel has suggested that we begin meeting quarterly to explore these things. So we'll be looking for your ideas to bring in to these conversations. And the last one that I got an email from Miles Cushman, who is the trainer in education for Laramie Police Department, and he wanted me to make sure that all of you counselors know there is upcoming training that will be instituted for Councilor Bowling as well as our new board member, where it's about 30 hours of training, and any of you are invited to participate. And if you are interested, let me know, and I will put you in touch with Officer Cushman. But having gone through that training myself, it's very interesting, it's eye-opening, it's participatory, it's conducted more like a seminar in college. You're not lectured to, it's very participatory, and I found it extremely valuable. So know that you're welcome, and either let City Clerk or me know if you're interested, and we will get you in touch, or you could let our liaison know. Okay, and that's it for me. So, Vice Mayor.
Thank you. Mine are coming up, so no reports.
Councilor Newman.
Yeah, one of my meetings, they changed the date, so I haven't went to any. However, I got an email from the Laramie Rifle Range, and I noticed that it only went to like 3 or 4 of us, so I just forwarded it to all of council. So all of council should have, it's an end-of-year report that lets us know, like, everything they've done out there, infrastructure-wise or whatever. So I won't bore you with it, but it's a pretty long email. Go ahead and read it at your own.
Thank you. Councilor Lockhart.
I was able to attend my first Planning Commission meeting last evening, which I was very excited. I was able to actually go. So, and thank you for offering to help me if I couldn't.
You're welcome.
Very enlightening. One of the topics voted upon was the there was a text amendment change just for clarification on code. No codes were changed, it just was clarification, which I can't imagine the process that Emma went through to look through everything, but it was very helpful. But there was also a subject voted on about a modular that was set in Blake Mobile Home Park, and it was very large, and it was way over all the setbacks. And unfortunately, what they found is most every modular out there is mobile home is in violation. Some have been grandfathered in, of course, but this individual has not been able to move in and lives 3 hours away and works here. But unfortunately, this thing is a monstrosity, and it's just way too big, and if they do pave the street, it'll be very much in violation from the center of the street back. So it was voted down that they cannot, so they're gonna have to move it. Unfortunate for the owner, because it's gonna cost lots of money to do so, but no guidance was given to this owner prior to placing it. So it was, I found it very interesting that the person that had contacted the Planning Commission, what they had brought to attention, and how the whole process worked on educating and who got to speak. So I'm looking forward to more of those meetings.
Thank you. And Councillor Freed.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Mayor. I was able to attend the Parks and Rec Board that met on January 8th, and that board heard applications for different groups in the community that were applying for funding. It was really interesting to hear all the different groups that are, hosting sports and booster programs and asking and advocating for safety equipment and space in the community. And so tomorrow there is another meeting for that board to agree on what the recommendation will come to council on what funding we can allocate. So I'm sure I'll have a share out again soon with that recommendation. The Traffic Safety Commission met on January 9th and held discussion regarding road improvements and have provided comment to city officials at that time regarding street parking and bike lanes. It was just comments. There's no recommendations being made at that time. But that was also really interesting to hear, specifically on Ivinson, some of the improvements and some discussion about what the university's bus routes might contribute to that section of Ivinson between 9th and 15th in years to come. So really interesting to hear about that. And then the last board that I was able to attend last week was the Laramie Railroad Depot Board, and I was present when they elected their president and vice president, confirmed meeting times for the year, and just established some of the ground rules that they'll continue with. They did have one potential safety concern that might fall at Railroad Depot Park or on their property with the city, but there's a spot where some of the bricks are kind of sunk into the ground from an old manhole cover, and so I can follow up with city officials and maybe talk about if that's their property or if it's a city property, and just maybe blocking it off for more of a summer use when people are at farmers markets and walking across, but something that I can follow up on.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate the thoroughness of all of your reports. I found them informative, and it really helps us to track what is happening and to keep up with things. Thank you. Last, we will move to the review of the agenda. I'll give you a few minutes. City Manager, did you have?
No, I'm just ready for questions if you have them,
Okay.
Councilor.
The Vice Mayor and I had quite a few questions during our agenda meeting.
Mayor, if I might, I would point out that from the agenda meeting yesterday, one item was removed from the agenda that you reviewed, so it will look a little bit different. That was removed just because it's not quite ready, so you'll likely see it coming forward with respect to 15th Street design and University of Wyoming development on a future meeting.
Thank you, and we did get an email about that. Thank you. Ready? Any comments or changes for the consent agenda? Any concerns there? Moving on to the regular agenda. Any questions or? None? All right. Thank you very much. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
We are adjourned.